Okay,
Yes.
I'm picking up from where Beth has stopped. You heard that ECOSOC, or the Economic and Social Council, is the one of the 6 organs of the UN. And in fact, it is the heart of the UN system to advance the 3 dimensions of sustainable development: the economic, social, and environmental. ECOSOC links a diverse family of UN entities dedicated to the sustainable development, providing overall guidance and coordination. These entities include regional ECOSOC, Economic and Social Council commissions, functional commissions, facilitating intergovernmental discussions of major global issues, and specialized agencies, programs, funds at work around the world to translate development commitments into real changes in people's lives. ECOSOC is the gateway for UN partnership. It allows participation from all over the world. It's a unique opportunity for productive dialogues and policy making by including parliamentarians, academics, foundations, businesses, youth, and over 5,081 ECOSOC registered NGOs. That is as of 2018. So you can see some of the themes that ECOSOC follows are here. You will get these slides, so you will see them in details. And one of the major functional commissions that we all are engaged in as NGOs is Commission for Social Development, which deals with most of the sustainable development goal issues like aging, civil society, cooperatives, disability, employment, family, indigenous people, poverty, social integration, youth. So it's a whole bucket of issues. And if you want to get a grasp onto the whole commission and its concerns and commitments, please read the outcome document of the World Summit for Social Development that took place in 1995 in Copenhagen. That will give you a real understanding. The next commission that we give a lot of focus to is Commission on the Status of Women. It was a principal body dedicated to the promotion of gender equality and empowerment. And we as religious are engaged in it. And in 1996, the mandate expanded to review the progress. You have heard of the Beijing conference where Hillary Clinton spoke, human rights are women's rights, or women's rights are human rights. So today, this year, we celebrate the 25th anniversary. A lot of programs and events planned for that has not materialized except online. So please read the Beijing Declaration so that you will get an understanding. And some of the other commissions are stated here. Population Commission Development, all the commissions have annual meetings, either at UN or wherever they are based. Then you have Commission on Sustainable Development. In 2009, I was privileged to attend that. It was established in 1992 during the Earth Summit at Rio de Janeiro. Then when the 20th anniversary conference was held, Rio plus 20 in Rio, they did away with the commission and established high-level political forum which will evaluate the review and implementation of sustainable development goals. This annual meeting is held every year in July at the UN, and high-level political forum modalities govern these. Every year it is under the ECOSOC modalities, but fourth year it gets a review in the General Assembly under a General Assembly modalities. So participation depends on that. Then you have international conferences that are important. Even though development issues were in the forefront of the UN, financing was an issue. So the first international conference on financing was held in Monterrey, Mexico in 2002. So those of you who would like to engage in the Financing for Development NGO committee, please read up the outcome document, which has the following major focus areas: mobilizing domestic resources. Each country has to generate money within their countries in order to promote welfare and development of their own people. And that's mostly through taxation. Then they generate money through international development in their countries. Then trade is another means of bringing in money. But trade means they need to have products to sell and buy. Then you have the international financial issues and taxation issues. Even though the UN has 193 countries, all of them do not have a say or a place at the table to discuss on finance and trade issues. That is mostly controlled by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD countries, which are 34 in number. The rest of them get invited one or two at a time to listen to the discussions, but they have to obey. So if you are not at the table, you are on the menu. And that is a big issue faced by all the developing countries, which are represented G77 plus China. That is 130 some countries. So there are systemic issues that needs, just like the UN Security Council needs revamping, the financial and taxation system of the world needs. The third international conference took place as the negotiations for sustainable development goals, the 2030 agenda, was taking place in Addis Ababa. I was lucky enough to attend that. We hoped that we would get an international tax body, but the developing world ditched the rest. Then you have UN treaty bodies and conventions. You have heard of climate change. That is governed by the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change. What is the difference between a convention and a commission? Convention is a treaty in which countries agree, and it is a legally binding treaty, and it becomes legally binding when they ratify that treaty in their parliaments or senates or Congress. So that's the difference. A commission is not legally binding. What comes out of the UN, most of the time, they are soft laws. The country can apply it or leave it. Whereas a legally binding, they have the obligation to obey it. So you have heard of the Paris Climate Agreement. There are 197 countries parties to it. That means they have signed on to it. 189 have ratified it. And now you know the US has gone out of the Paris Agreement. You may wonder, UN has 193, but all the small countries in the world are not members of the UN. So the larger numbers. The countries who are not part of the Paris Climate Agreement are Angola, Eritrea, South Sudan, Iran, Iraq, Libya, Turkey, and Yemen. The COP26, annually the meeting Conference of Parties, that is COP, was supposed to take place this November in Glasgow. Because of COVID-19, it's postponed, but there are so many avenues through which you can participate in it. Then you have the UN Convention to combat desertification. Our human involvement and intervention through deforestation and all the other ways that we are trashing the earth is affecting in many ways. Then you have the UN Convention on Biological Diversity. You saw its report that came out in this year, which said over 1 million things are becoming extinct, biological diversity, we are going to be poorer for it if we don't change our ways. Then you have the General Assembly committees that you heard. You have the expert bodies. You have the UN Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues, the indigenous peoples who were the protectors of the earth and its resources were disengaged from all the UN conversations. So it was established in the year 2000. There is an annual meeting on indigenous issues every year at the UN, mostly in April. You can read the history. I thought we need to give importance because we have neglected those issues. Then you have the Committee on Non-Governmental Organization. It is an organ of the UN under the ECOSOC. It has 19 members. This is the body that looks at our applications for ECOSOC accreditations. And most of these members are not NGO friendly. They consider most of the time NGOs their enemies, or worse, not to be included at the UN. So we need to participate so that they know we look at their performance on how they discriminate against faith-based or human rights-based NGOs. Other committees, you have a committee of experts on international cooperation in tax matters. That is an important body at the UN. FFT follows it because unless everyone has a place at the table and where corporations pay taxes from where they make money, not where they are headquartered, there is no justice. You can read the others. Then you have programs and funds. You have heard of UNDP, UN Environment Program. One of the outcomes, the UN Environment Program, is engaging faith-based organizations in order to bring a change into our environment. It is called Faith for Earth. Many of your congregations are engaged in. You have Population Fund, which has a department that engages faith-based organizations. You have UNICEF, the UN Drugs and Crime, which is based in Vienna, which is part of trafficking, human trafficking crime, and even HIV/AIDS. I don't know how HIV/AIDS got into. So you can look at the other. Then you have International Labour Organization. ILO was founded in 1919. It is a tripartite organization where it brings into dialogue governments, management, and labor so that working relationship and betterment of all parties can be developed, especially conditions that promote the labor in the world. Then you have Food and Agriculture Organization, UNESCO, World Bank, and Monetary Fund. Those are known as the Bretton Woods, and they are responsible for most of the misery that developing countries are facing because they brought in structural adjustments. If you wanted to get World Bank and IMF funding for your development, you had to heed their advice and change all the systems. Most of the time it was austerity leading to no social protection or security measures for people living in poverty. You have UNIDO, World Tourism is under. This is very important for development because millions of people depend on their livelihood. Then the newest organ that is involved with the UN is International Organization for Migration. Until 2016, when the migration, great movements around the world, the IOM was independent of the UN. Since we had the Global Compact on Migration, IOM has become the principal organ to implement its policies. So it networks with the UN and all the countries. Then how do we NGOs join the conversation at the UN? That is through major groups and other stakeholders. It was established at the first Earth Summit in 1992. These are the major groups. We come under the NGO organizations. There is a monthly meeting in New York where organizations from all over join the meeting. You can participate. Then in Rio Plus 20, they added a few more organizations. So you are known as major groups and other stakeholders. There is a modality for our participation. So that's it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Any questions on the chat?
Would you be able to elaborate, Teresa, on when you were speaking about the expert bodies? Why would the Committee on NGOs, why does it look at other NGOs and faith-based organizations as an enemy and competitively? Could you elaborate on that?
See, there are 19 member countries. Most of those countries, though they are supposed to rotate, many of them are keeping their seats warm. It's like India, Pakistan, Turkey, Ethiopia, Egypt. They don't consider NGOs as friends and collaborators and partners. Any human rights-based organization demanding justice for people living in poverty and on the margins and for vulnerable people, they are considered not as partners with the government. So they do not want to promote such NGOs. In terms of, I can speak for India, if there is a Christian name attached, they will keep them hanging in the balance for 20 years before they will give approve. Every year they will review and ask them more questions and justifications for their participation at the UN. It is a political issue rather than a policy issue. Does that help?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Thanks for your presentation.
Teresa?
Yes.
I need to clear one doubt.
Yes.
Not to the, in 2000, there was the World Conference Against Racism. Now, does that happen year after year? Do they have an ongoing process? Because more and more it becomes very important, not only for race access, but things like caste and other forms of discrimination, work and, descent-based discrimination, which we find globally. So does that process continue?
No, I think that was in Durban, that conference took place.
2000 in Durban.
Yeah, that was in Durban. Last year when I attended one of the sessions on racism, they were planning to hold a meeting this year, but I don't think this will happen.
They had a one or two follow-up conferences. So it has not been systematized, is it?
No, it is not an annual. See, just like conferences are not annual. Commissions are annual. Conferences are when they need. Like in 2016, we had the humanitarian conference. They take place when there is an urgent need. Probably because of the issue on racism and discrimination, Black Lives Matter, the hostility towards the Dalits and other minorities. If we put pressure, it can happen.
Thank you, Teresa.
And I wanted to tell one thing on Trusteeship Council. Trusteeship Council has not completed its mission. There are many small countries who are still under colonial rule. Even under the US, you have Puerto Rico. They are second-class citizens. Some people would like to get independence. So there are many small island countries who are under colonial rule, would like to have independence, but trusteeship is under suspension. It's not completed its mission.
Good point, Teresa. Thank you very much for the correction.